Okay, should we go ahead? Okay, let's do it. I love this small group. I feel so much more comfortable seeing when I walked into this room. I know a lot of people here. Amy is my neighbor, actually. And so, as good of a neighbor as you think Amy would be, knowing her, she's even better in person. I know I work with her a lot. And so, anyway, really glad to be here. So, I'm Kimball Partner. I'm the CEO of 650. 650 is the technology arm of the law firm Wilson Sussey. And what we do is we'll take complicated compliance and legal paperwork, and we'll automate it for businesses. And we'll sell it into businesses. So for example, China passed a new privacy law just recently. It goes into effect on November 1st. We worked with the firm, got all the paperwork that a company would need for that, automated it like TurboTax, translated it into Chinese, did everything that a company would have to do, and now we sell that out to businesses. So we kind of work in two areas. We work in employment law and privacy law. And occasionally we will dabble into access to justice. Unlike kind of Stacy, I've worked with Stacy on a project that I'm going to talk about. And Anna Carpenter, I don't live in the access to justice world. I kind of pop in and out occasionally. But that doesn't mean that I don't have opinions on it, okay, which I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so has anybody here, I'm going to begin by talking about food, my favorite subject. Has anybody here been to Walter's? Well, there's Walter, very gregarious man. He'll give you a kiss on the cheek if you go there enough. I learned about Walters from an NBA podcast, a podcast on the NBA, where Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, said that his favorite place to eat in the nation, traveling all around, is Walters. Huh. Isn't that funny? So I thought, geez, I've got to go try Walters. So I went to Walters, and it's quite an experience. You know, it's all of it's handmade, it's bespoke food. You know, they come and they mix things out in front of you. It is delicious and expensive. So I don't go there very often. But a really fun eating experience to go to Walters. Okay. So more about food. On the other end of the spectrum here, we have manufactured food. Okay, so we have Cheerios, my personal favorite. Okay, so and you kind of see these are on two ends of the spectrum. Walter's Place, my estimate, maybe, I don't know, 200 meals a night. Maybe it's 250, maybe it's 150 or 100. Which means, you know, maybe somewhere around 73,000 meals a year, which is actually incredible. And if you go with two people, you will spend over $100. That's pretty much a guarantee. Now, contrast that with Cheerios. We have, I looked up some cereal numbers about cereal. There are 7.4 million boxes of cereal made a day. There are 2.7 billion boxes of cereal made a year. And, you know, if you want to eat Cheerios for breakfast, two people, it'll probably cost you $3, let's say, with the milk. So again, you know, Walter's very bespoke. It's handmade. You can just envision Walter back there making the pasta himself in the back. No person is hand carving each Cheerio, right? A machine is doing that. It's manufactured. What? Yeah, sorry, yeah. So I want you to imagine. Okay, this is where we're going to have to use our imaginations. Let's say there's a food shortage. Okay, there was a food shortage, and the problem is not supply of food, meaning like there's enough grain, right? But the grain, I don't know, it's not being manufactured in the spaghetti, let's say. Or, you know, so it's not some environmental event that's causing it, right? But if there's a shortage of food, So more chefs surely can't hurt. It's nice to have more vaulters. I mean, who wouldn't want more vaulters? And it might be nice to have some sous chefs too, right? But really, to probably address that food shortage, you need to mass produce food, right? We need to get the General Mills plant running full time to try to cover that gap. Because think, if there was a food shortage, think how many people there are in the United States. I mean, there's over 300 million people here. There's 3 million people in Utah that have to eat 3 times a day, right? That's a lot of Vaulter meals. Vaulter, sure, if we add another Vaulter, that would help. It would produce 200 meals a day. It would be expensive. But we would need to fire up that General Mills plant. Get the Twinkie plant that used to be there on 7th South running. Right? So why am I talking about food? I want to switch over to the law. Okay, this is in case you didn't catch on, an elaborate analogy that I will take to extraordinary lengths during this presentation. So we have a law shortage. We have a major law shortage. It's not, we don't just have a little leak. We have a big leak. There are, some of these numbers are from 2017. But I imagine they're similar. 2017, there were 96,000, just over 96,000 civil cases filed in Utah. 50 to 60K of those were debt collection cases, just debt collection cases. A lot of years, debt collection is 2/3 of all civil cases filed in the state, which is incredible. 7,000 to 8,000 evictions. And out of all those litigants, out of all those cases, 93% of them had somebody who could not afford an attorney. So, and 15% of the cases, neither party had an attorney. So what that equals out to is in 2017, there were over 100,000 pro se litigants trying to navigate the legal system without an attorney. So that's an incredible number. There's only 8,000 attorneys, right? There's only 8,000 vaulters. Let's say a vaulter is an attorney. There's only 8,000 vaulters out there. And so, that is a huge gap there. Each attorney would have to take over 10 new cases for free every year, if possible. Completely impossible to cover. So let me say, I grew up and started at a big law firm. I really, in my legal career, only saw the 7% where both parties had an attorney. I don't think I had one case in the whole 6 years that I was an attorney where the other side did not have an attorney. So a lot of firms, they live at 7% growth. And there aren't a lot of lawyers who live at 93% growth. Like almost the whole legal profession lives at 7% growth. And, but if you look at it, you think, whoa, there is a huge shortage. So, let me give you one other example. During the pandemic, 36 million people lost their job in a 6-week period. That's more than the population of the Netherlands and Belgium combined. All lost their job, filed for unemployment. And this, legal problems follow financial problems. So those people then had debt collection cases. They were at risk of eviction. They maybe were going to lose their mortgage. They could be foreclosed. There are only 1.3 million lawyers in the nation. They're kind of those debt collection numbers are every single year, and then occasionally we get one of these tsunamis that just completely overwhelm the amount of suppliers we have in this, for this problem. So facing a problem like this, again, you know, if we relate it back to food, surely the solution would, you know, we wouldn't say, let's add more vaulters. We need more vaulters out there. In fact, let's train some sous chefs who kind of create mini vaulter food. You know, that's nice. That certainly can't hurt. I'm all for that. But to make a meaningful impact into this scale of problem, we need to mass produce them. Right? Certainly more lawyers, more helpers. They can't hurt. That's great. Again, I'm all for it. But to really make an impact, a meaningful impact in those numbers, that is a drop in the bucket. And we have to mass produce the law. We got to create more Cheerios boxes, right? So, but let me kind of stop here and see if there are any questions about any of this or any comments. Kind of fun having a small group so we can make it more discussion.
Comment is just how shocking. It's just so overwhelming. You know what?
Yeah, let me say, I'll tell you about how I personally learned about this. Is that I started this project at BYU Law School called LawX. And LawX, we thought, okay, let's pick one area of the law that is terrible for people who can't afford attorneys. And let's try to build a software solution to it in one term. So that's it. We just have one term. We're going to try to build it to it. And so we looked at defaults. So Dino Himonas, who used to be my a lot of lawyers. He had said like, hey, there's like tons of defaults. And so I'll look at it. What we found was just incredible. You know, all of those numbers that we just looked at. You know, the majority of it's debt collection. And it's like, well, holy cow. Again, I have been living completely in 7%. You know, and kind of got a glimpse into that. Okay, so how can we mass produce that? We have actually some pretty good models for how to mass produce it. I want to share some pretty incredible success stories with you. All right, so let's keep this one end of the spectrum and the other. Okay, so Wilson Sonsini, bespoke law. Okay, they have 7,000 plus clients. Let's say. And they charge upwards of $1,400 an hour. That's an incredible number, but that actually is true. Rocket Lawyer, they're like Cheerios. Okay, they have 25 million customers. Just think about that. Rocket Lawyer has 25 million customers. Has anybody visited the Rocket Lawyer site? It's incredible. They have 1,000 documents on it. Any document you could possibly think of is on there. That's non-litigation. So, like, you need a partnership agreement, it's there. You need a will, that's there too. You want divorce papers, those are in Rocket. I mean, they have automated everything, over 1,000 documents on it. And their model is you pay $40 per month to get access to it. So that is an incredible success story. I actually think Rocket Lawyer is the most successful access to justice project in the history of this nation. 25, just think of those. Now that's like the entire state of California, all covered through Rocket Lawyer. Another interesting one is LegalZoom Home. 6 million people last year with legal issues. So 10% of all LLCs formed in the United States in 2020 is through LegalZoom. 5% of all corporations, 10% of all trade. Just an incredible success. The reason why we know these numbers is because LegalZoom just went public, as you can see from this one. So they had to publish it all in an S1, and I read the entire thing. It was amazing. They automate along three areas: corporations, intellectual property, and trust excellence. So that is incredible scale. Between LegalZoom and Rockefeller, 31 million people have received legal. Now, is it a perfect solution? No, right? I mean, it's you know, if you ate Cheerios for every meal, you might be sick. But I eat Cheerios every morning, right? I mean, most of my food is manufactured food, not altered food, right? You know, 650, we're trying to be a little more towards the Wilson Sons CD side of our, we work with Wilson Sons CD to automate our documents, and I'm sure you know where we hope to put it. Like not quite Cheerios, more like Rouse pasta sauce. Anybody love Rouse pasta sauce? Yeah. Let the Rouse pasta sauce go. So there are also services. This is so cool, actually. Where like, so if you're a law firm or you're a person, and you're like, I want to be part of something. There are services where you can piggyback off their platform to create your own thing. So like, has anybody heard of Hello Divorce? All right, Hello Divorce, you should look it up, it's incredible. It's from this person, Erin Levine. She had a family law practice and was just doing the same documents like every single time. And she was like, geez, if I just like automate this once, I'll mix it in with some attorney services and I'll have a business. And she just raised millions of dollars, VC money, good VC money, really good VC money, to kind of blow that up. That her entire system is built on something called Document. You can automate a document and sell it, link it to Stripe, collect payments, everything. You can run the entire thing through Document. Document's founded by a woman named Dorna. If anybody wants to get in touch with Dorna, let me know. I know her well. She's incredible. But she's basically created this thing where like you could create LegalZoom yourself on this. You don't need like an expensive engineer. You don't need any of that. You can just build it on that platform. It's a no-code automation platform. And listen, it's not that complicated. Like if I could do it, literally anybody could do it. I know nothing about code. I hire people, but I don't. And so there's some great resources. So I have a few minutes left. Actually, when is my session end? 12:50. I got 10 minutes left. Okay, great. So I want to share kind of two stories and a couple success stories. All right. So I used to work at Parsons Bailey when I was an associate. This is before I think got poached away by Wilson. Started in 6 weeks. But they had a pro bono program, and we helped with debt collection cases, which is kind of tough. And there's a guy there who that's the pro bono he does, and he does an incredible job. Does anybody know Brian Rothschild? Yeah, okay. He's like my favorite person. But he would handle these debt collection cases from scratch every single time. And then if somebody wanted to help, they would handle the same case, and the cases are the same. They're the exact same. And the firm will just do it from scratch every single time. And so I remember talking with Brian saying, hey, look, how about instead of us doing it one time, let's spend 3 times as much time on that one case. And let's automate. Let's automate the answer to a debt collection lawsuit. We can do the initial disclosures. We can automate answering discovery requests. All of that is not that hard. You know, for answering a lawsuit, for example, Amy knows she answers lawsuits all day. There's only 3 responses you can give to an allegation. Say, I admit, I deny, I don't know. You know, there's only 3 flavors. There's some nuances within that, but those kind of restraints make that document very automated. Same with some discovery documents like request to admit. There's a limited number of things you can say in that document in response if you're that makes that document very, very automated. And so I think law firms, one thing that I would love to see from law firms do these pro bono methods is to not just do the work and do it once and then let that all that knowledge and that expertise dissipate over time. Like a firm could take less cases, automate, figure out what the commonalities are between them, automate them on document, and offer that for free out to 1,000. Okay, so I'm going to give you some kind of some success stories about doing something like that. So the first is this Law X project. So we looked at defaults. We thought, oh my gosh, they're all debt collection. 2/3 of these are debt collection. So 99% of people sued cannot afford to manage. 99%. Some years, upwards of 80% of people sued for a debt default. So they don't even try to respond. And actually, Stacy talked about this downstairs. A lot of those people have great defenses. In fact, so we interviewed a whole bunch of people who were sued. My favorite story, which is the saddest probably, is that somebody was sued. It wasn't even them. It was the wrong name. Or it was the wrong person, same name. And the person just didn't know how to deal with it. It was too busy and just let it sit. And then all of a sudden their wages are garnished. And by then it's too late. You've already lost the lawsuit. Everything is being true. So what we did is we scraped my brain about how to answer a lawsuit. And we automated it in this simple automation system that we literally built in like 2 weeks. These are not complicated tools. And so we released it. We thought, this is so funny. We released it, and it exploded. We have more uses in a month than we expected in the entire year. It's now helped nearly 8,000 people respond to a debt collection list. And that was like a class meeting once a week for a term. So think about that. It was like less than, it's basically, maybe 40, 30 hours of testing where we were able to do that. And we've adjusted it since. In fact, actually, I gave it to a student. He's now running it. It's now funded by a big VC firm called Hunter. But it just goes. That's the wonderful thing about machines. They don't after you create it and release it, it just goes. Right? And they can just keep hitting uses. So that was from a bunch of people who had absolutely no idea about technology. All right. So during the pandemic, 650 created 2 tools. Actually, let me say that how I got the job at 650 is that solo suits started to get some press. In fact, Ralph Nader called my office phone. It's about as odd of a conversation as you expect, but it started to get some press, and that caught Wilson Sonsini's eye. And their proposition to me was, instead of like scraping your idiot brain, who knows nothing about the law, he's only been a lawyer for like 4 years, come to Wilson Sonsini. We'll link you with the best experts in the world on these subjects, and then you can scrape their brains and have real expertise in these tools. And so, anyway, so that's how I know it. But so when the pandemic hit, all these people lost their jobs, and Congress reacted. They passed the CARES Act, which had in the CARES Act, it had eviction protection and it had mortgage protection. But in order to take advantage of those protections, you had to create paperwork, legal paperwork. And actually, later down the line, you had to create an official declaration said that certified certain things, like I've lost my job, if I lose my home, I'll be homeless. You know, you have to declare an official declaration, 5 or 10 things. And, people don't know how to do that. Nobody knows how to make a declaration. So anyway, we automate that, right? So this is not Vaulter work, right? This is Cheerios. It's like people just need something to hold them over. And so we automated one thing for people who were renters, one thing for people who needed to delay paying their mortgage. So under the CARES Act, there are mortgage protections. You could delay paying your mortgage for 6 months if you had financial distress. 20,000 people. I was trying to explain that to my team, and I was like, that's like 100 law clinics working around the clock all the time from that tool. And so like this, what I want my message to be here is that this can be done. This is not like you don't need Wozniak, Steve Jobs' counterpart to build something for you. This is child's play software. And especially now with services like Document, anybody can do it. Any firm can do it. And so I want us to stop thinking like we need more chefs, right? Chefs are great. Some people need bespoke meals, but they're right now with a lot of legal issues, some of our most pressing legal issues in our nation. We need to manufacture. It needs to get more efficient. We can pump out more. We don't need 2x gains. We need 10x, 100x efficiency gains. And you don't get that by adding hands. You get that by adding machines. Okay, any questions or comments? We have 1 minute. Yeah.
This should be easy to answer. What's the best way to identify the brightest opportunities and filter them out?
So the funding is hard. The funding is hard. Let me tell you, there's like an endless amount of things. Like for example, has anybody looked at the asylum application? The application for someone in danger to come into the United States, someone whose life is in danger to come into the United States. It is the most complicated form I've ever seen, ever.
And it's in English.
And it's in English. Yes, exactly.
Like we know most of the people reading that form don't speak English.
That is like low-hanging fruit. It'll take some time. Someone will have to go through it and figure it out, but it's not rocket science. Like that can be done. But I tell you another one, which is great. This is for the LGBTQ plus. Changing your name, incredibly difficult. Like the paperwork to change your name is unbelievable, but easily automated. Like somebody could create just a simple tool, probably take that like 3 weeks to do, part-time, to go on the document and automate changing a name in your state. It's not that difficult. Think how many people that. And so 650. We'll kind of jump in every now and then when we see something where we think like, well, we could help. We're actually looking into this. We may automate the but like anybody can do this. And they can make thousands of people. I'll just end with one story. One hell of a landlord user wrote us back. Said, hey, thank you so much. She was able to avoid being evicted. She was being evicted. She brought the declaration to the court and avoided her. It helped her avoid her. And she was like, thank you so much. Like I would have been trying to get too emotional. But she said basically that she would have been living in a car with 2 kids and a cat. As Amy knows, I have 2 kids. That's an easy story for me to feel empathy about. And all she needed was Cheerios. I mean, a box of Cheerios. We need to start firing up the general to help these people. So thank you very much for coming. And if you have any questions, let me know.